welcome to Mom's Way to Wellness. I am your host, Ida Maravillas, and today we are talking about how rest can help you recover from or even avoid burnout. Today's episode is part of a series on burnout that we've been going over in this podcast, and so I'm glad that you're here to listen in because there's some really important aspects about how burnout impacts us and the things that we can do to try to prevent it or even try to work our way through it and recover from it. So, what if taking a break when you feel overwhelmed or stressed out will actually help you get more done and even feel better while you tackle your to-do list? You see, I was working with a mom recently who was struggling to feel rested because she was trying some different things to help her feel better, but she was still waking up feeling exhausted. She noticed it was starting to feel harder to get things done and things were feeling more and more overwhelming. And this has been a common thread in the stories of other moms too. They've said that they try to rest, but it doesn't help, or that they still feel tired even when nothing is happening. They go through their days pushing through the to-do list, getting housework done, navigating parenting challenges, and trying to figure out what to make for dinner again. I can relate to that being a stressor. What do I make for dinner again? I'm wondering what I will make for dinner today, actually. But sometimes the hardest part of their day happens when the kids are finally in bed. The house finally quiets down, and it's time to slow down. It's time to power down and go to sleep, and their head hits the pillow, but sleep doesn't follow. Instead, their mind is on and their body wants to keep on going. Instead of feeling like relief is finally here, they feel restless and have a hard time being still. Their nervous system is activated, but a lot of times they have no idea why their thoughts are racing or why it's so hard to fall asleep. And so I want to touch on something that is very important to differentiate, and it's because the trouble with being able to rest or the trouble with being able to get to sleep, it isn't something that's happening out of nowhere. It's usually something that's more noticeable when it's not time to keep on pushing. But when it's quiet, there's nothing left to distract you. So as we continue to look at the ways burnout shows up, it's important to separate the functions of rest and sleep because they are actually not the same thing. Did you realize that rest actually happens when we are awake and sleep happens, of course, when we are unconscious? In fact, the definition of rest is an instance or period of relaxing or ceasing to engage in strenuous or stressful activity. It means taking a break from the work, taking a break from whatever is stressful, taking a break from something that is requiring a lot of energy. Rest is something that lowers stress. It lowers our heart rate, and it is something that decreases our physical and mental effort while we are awake. Sleep is very different. Sleep is something that happens in a state of unconsciousness. When we're asleep, the body is going through different processes that are necessary for deep levels of repair in the body and in the brain. I can't even begin to try to explain all of these different things that I am learning about our sleep. There's a lot of things that are happening within our body while we sleep. There's repair that's helping us to recover so that when we wake up, we are able to feel. Yes, we use the word rested, but we are able to feel more energy and better able to tackle the things that we have to do on a given day. What happens though when we are feeling burnout or we are under constant stress, chronic stress, some of the effects that it has on our sleep are insomnia, which means that we can't fall asleep, so we're not getting the sleep that we even need. We get sleep that is fragmented, so we wake up during the night. I think the term might be sleep disturbance, right? So you fall asleep, but you don't stay asleep all night. Wake up during the night, throughout the night, and then have trouble falling asleep again. Or sleep that is not restorative, which again, it means that the body isn't doing the restoration that it was meant to do while we are sleeping. And when we don't get the sleep that we need, it impacts our mood, and we can feel brain fog, we can have a hard time concentrating, and we can just feel exhausted because we're not waking up feeling like our body went through what it needed to go through to recover. So burnout impacts rest and sleep in some very specific ways. Your nervous system is still activated, your mental load doesn't shut off automatically, and rest requires intention. These are 3 ways that burnout impacts rest and sleep. And I know that I'm trying to differentiate it, and we have this tendency to use the terms rest and sleep interchangeably, and I'm trying to get away from that. But I do want to say this because there is a connection between sleep and rest, and this is it. Sleep may not improve rest, but rest can significantly improve the quality of our sleep. Again, sleep may not improve rest, but rest can significantly improve the quality of our sleep. So let's get into these 3 points in more detail. First, your nervous system is still activated. Your body is still on when you try to slow down. So it's the end of the day, the house is quiet, and that chronic stress of feeling on all the time doesn't just shut off automatically when we tell it to. And this is part of what makes us human. Stress increases levels of hormones in the body, and one of those hormones is cortisol, and cortisol is actually a steroid hormone that activates our fight or flight response. And if that is activated when we are trying to sleep, how is that possible to get a restful sleep when we are in a fight or flight response? It's going to impact our sleep in a negative way. Slowing down feels uncomfortable because it's not something you've been able to do. So that might be another part of why it's hard to help the nervous system to settle down and to regulate. So something you can do is bringing yourself into the moment instead of thinking about all of the things that need to get done. Being in the moment is a good place to start. A lot of times I recommend that that you keep a little notepad or a journal next to your bed. It's really helpful to just have a landing place for all of that information that keeps on cycling through your mind, because the mind was made to recall information. And so if you are thinking about the to-do list and thinking about different things, thinking about different responsibilities and that need to get done, just writing them down could be so helpful, because you can always refer to the list later, but at least you're putting it down so that the mind does not continue to recall that information. The other part of, the second step is that mental load doesn't shut off automatically. Your brain keeps running in the background, thinking about a lot of different things. The mental checklists keep on going even though you don't want them to. And this is where you might be carrying and holding things that were never meant to hold on to. The overwhelming pressure, the responsibility, the weight of trying to keep it all together, and the underlying worries and fears. And again, this is something that if you are able to have something to write on next to your bed, this is an opportunity to put those things down. You can write prayers. You can pray in a soft whisper. It doesn't have to be, being on the knees next to your bedside, even though that could be part of your shutdown routine. It doesn't have to be only during a mass or during a church service or a holiday that you're able to use prayer or even meditation as part of a routine that helps you to settle down in your body. The third thing is that rest requires intention. Quieting the nervous system is a process. It's an intentional process. I remember listening to a podcast once that talked about the time that it takes the body to shut down. It takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes for the body to shut down, if I am not mistaken. And I was very surprised to hear that if you fall asleep immediately when your head hits the pillow, it actually means that you are sleep deprived. And even if you fall asleep when your head hits the pillow, it doesn't always mean that you will stay asleep. Everyone's sleep pattern is so different. And that's the part of our lives that nobody necessarily sees or knows about unless it's something that we are talking about. So quieting the nervous system is a process, and rest isn't something that just happens when everything is done. The things that need to get done, they're still going to need to get done. Rest sometimes requires a level of preparation in order to be able to get we'll call it like the payout later on. Rest is a gift that was intended to be part of the way that we live our lives. So giving yourself permission to rest is also an important aspect of surrender to God's intention for us to hold space for it. He created rest. He rested on the seventh day after his work was done. So work was built into what we're supposed to be doing, but rest was also built into that. And God's intention for us included time set apart for rest. I know that I'm still learning what that looks like because I grew up in a household where I needed to be on the go. I needed to work and do what was necessary around the house, and then I needed to work outside of the home during my teen years and in college, and then I started my family very young, and I took what I learned, what was modeled to me, what was taught to me, and it has been very challenging for me to learn how to slow down, how to be still, how to regulate my nervous system. So I am with you in this challenge, but it is so beneficial. And when we see that this is part of the design, we know that this is really a gift. We even see it when Jesus attended the dinner that both Mary and Martha were hosting. Martha wanted to get through the to-do list of hosting, but Mary, she was at the feet of Jesus. She was listening to his teachings, and when it was brought to his attention that one sister was not doing her part and not helping and not doing the work, he said that she chose what was good, and he was not going to take that away from her. So it's really important to think about how it is a gift from God that he wants us to be able to rest at least the one day a week. It's an intentional part of our design and something that he wants us to engage with. And another thing about rest is that when you know what feels restful to you, then it'll be easier to find a way to do it. So this is something to approach with curiosity. I remember a few years ago, we were on a trip to Puerto Rico and we were staying at an Airbnb, and we went to the grocery store on Saturday to get some things because we didn't want to have to take care of it on a Sunday. And the store was so crowded that we left. We didn't stay. We decided we'll just take care of this tomorrow because this store is way too busy for us to want to go in there and deal with any of this. And then the next day when we went to the store was closed. And this was foreign to me. This was before COVID, and, this was not a big box store. I've heard that there are some big box stores on the island that are open on Sundays, but it was a really big wake-up call for me as I thought about all of the preparation that people were doing in their homes to get ready for a day that they would not have access to the store. They were not going to have access to be able to go in and to be able to shop and take care of another task or errand on that Sunday. It didn't mean that they weren't going to have to do other things in their homes, but shopping was not going to be one of them. So when I think about rest requiring some preparation ahead of time, I think about preparing an extra serving of a meal so that you can have leftovers and not have to cook another day of the week. Doing errands on one day so that way the next day you don't have to run to a lot of different places. Or even working in what is really considered enough when it comes to getting stuff done. Is one task a day, 2 tasks a day, a whole project done? It's important to think about all of the different aspects of the things that we have to do. And rest, it's something that decreases stress. So it doesn't mean sit around and do nothing. It could mean engage in an activity. It could mean play. It could mean go for a run. It could mean go for a walk. Those are my favorite go-tos to do. It can mean watching a movie. It's giving your mind, giving your brain a break, doing something to be in that moment and not push yourself beyond your capacity. I hope that you are able to find ways to rest and be curious and be intentional with what that's going to look like for you. Because rest isn't just stopping. It's learning how to slow down, and it's happening while we are awake. If rest feels like it's hard to do, it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. You may need to learn how to rest physically, mentally, emotionally, and look for ways to reconnect spiritually, because there is rest in meditation, and there is rest in prayer, and there is rest in worship, whether that is alone or corporately if you attend a service. Rest can include releasing what you were never meant to carry all alone. So if burnout has been feeling constant for you, even when you are trying to rest, I want you to hear this. It's not that rest doesn't work. It's that your body and maybe even your heart are still learning how to receive it. And that takes time. I encourage you to give yourself some time to rest this week ahead. Be creative and look for ways to integrate rest into your season of motherhood, whatever season that may be. If you're carrying babies, walking around with toddlers, or driving around teens, whatever rest can possibly look like for you in your season, I encourage you to be curious and look for that way. And it is okay to start small, because what matters is starting at all. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you thought of someone who can use the encouragement that you received from this episode, please share it with them. If you would like to receive the monthly newsletter and insider information about the show, you can sign up to be part of the Mom's Way to Wellness community at idamaravillas.com.